The extreme cold apocalypse descended. I unexpectedly acquired the Insight system. While others froze into ice sculptures on the streets, I relied on my system to hoard supplies, surviving effortlessly when everyone else was still fighting over resources. I had already secretly built my Doomsday paradise. Leaving? You're not leaving yet? Wang Li, from the desk opposite mine, peeked over, holding her bag. She was clearly ready to head out. I'm leaving now, finish up and head back soon. I heard it might rain tonight, Wang Li said as she walked out. I casually replied, turned off my computer, and walked to the window to look down. The streetlights were already on. The traffic moved slowly like a tired ribbon of light. My phone vibrated. Mom sent a message, Xiao Ning. Are you off work? The weather has been bad recently. Wear more clothes when you go out. I felt a warmth in my heart, and quickly replied, just got off work, heading home now. Don't worry, Mom. You and Dad take care of yourselves too. Then, I grabbed my backpack and headed to the elevator. Leaving the office building, I walked along the sidewalk toward the subway station. My mind was still calculating the work tasks I had to handle tomorrow. Right at that moment, without any warning, a few drops of something freezing cold hit my face. A pungent smell of rust filled the air. Ouch! What is this? This doesn't feel like normal rain. It stings when it touches the skin. I quickened my pace and rushed to the subway entrance. Arriving at the station, a sense of unease welled up inside me. After returning home, exhausted from the day, I ate a quick bite and collapsed onto my bed. My sleep that night was very restless. My dreams were filled with bizarre shadows and that pungent, strange smell. In the morning, I was woken up by my alarm. I washed up and went out. I bought a cup of soy milk and 2 buns at a breakfast stall. As I was paying, my eyes casually swept across the stall. A thought suddenly popped into my head. I wonder how many meat buns are left. Just as this thought flashed by, a clear number popped right into my mind. I froze for a moment. Right then, the stall owner auntie told another customer, there are only 3 left. I grabbed my breakfast, muttering to myself as I walked. Arriving out front of my company building, I habitually went to the convenience store next door to buy a pack of chewing gum. The moment I stepped inside, my gaze swept across the entire shelf. Dense strings of numbers flooded my vision. Food inventory, fruit-flavored chewing gum. Inventory, kiwi and lemon flavor. Inventory, 307. I stared blankly at that shelf. A layer of cold sweat instantly broke out on my back. I tried to shift my gaze, looking at the beverage cooler nearby. Nongfu Spring Mineral Water. Inventory, 24 bottles. Green tea beverage. Inventory, 12 bottles. This wasn't an illusion. And it wasn't a coincidence. My hands and feet went cold. I could see the inventory and expiration dates of all these items. How is this possible? Miss, do you need any help? No, no need. I snapped back to reality. hurriedly grabbed a pack of gum, and walked out of the store. Yet, my entire body felt chilled. For the entire morning, I was restless. I couldn't help but sneak peeks at everything around me. I looked at the biscuits a colleague left on their desk. Chocolate sandwich biscuits. Inventory, 1 pack, expiry date, October 2064. I even glanced at a delivery truck downstairs and clearly perceived cargo inside, approximately 120 packages. Is this a superpower? But how? How could I suddenly have this ability? Was it because of that rain yesterday? I asked for the afternoon off, saying I was extremely dizzy, probably catching a cold. The supervisor saw that I did look pale, so he approved it without asking much. I didn't go home. Instead, I went to a wholesale market to thoroughly test this bizarre ability. The market was bustling with noise. I walked towards a warehouse section storing crates of drinks. As my gaze swept over them, clear information instantly emerged. Carbonated beverages, full crate inventory. 50 crates, expiry date, April 2065. Mineral water, full crates. Inventory, 30 crates, expiry date, January 2066. I walked over, pointed at those boxes and asked, "Boss, how many crates are here? Can I get a discount?" 50 crates of soda and 30 crates of mineral water. If you're genuinely buying, I can give you a discount. It was all true. I could see the inventory and expiration dates of everything. Coming back from the wholesale market, I sat on the chair in my living room, unable to move for a long time. The next day, I went to work as usual, but my mind wasn't on work at all. I realized that it only worked on inanimate objects. It was like having a built-in super scanner, able to see through quantities, dates, and even hidden flaws. To suddenly give me such piercing eyes. What exactly was I supposed to do with it? An ominous premonition quietly crept into my heart. I slowly walked back to my rented apartment, sat on the sofa, and started checking the latest news. I scrolled down to some obscure corners of the web. Some people were complaining that the birds near their homes were inexplicably flying away in large flocks these past few days. Someone posted a picture saying a reservoir in the suburbs dried up overnight. I hastily turned off my phone. Lying in bed, I then opened the city's largest supermarket app. My heart sank. The page was filled with a dazzling array of goods. But in my vision, behind the inventory number of every single item, was a downward pointing arrow. They were decreasing rapidly. I had a vague feeling that something massive was happening in places I couldn't see. Those numbers constantly flashing before my eyes made me feel incredibly anxious. I paced back and forth in my not-so-spacious room. Am I just overthinking this? But a lot of people at the wholesale market were hoarding goods. And there was the rapidly plummeting inventory in the supermarkets. I took a deep breath, opened my phone, and checked how much money I had in my bank accounts. I only had 50,000 yuans in my card. Combined with credit lines, it would be around 120,000 yuans total. If my premonition was true, what could 120,000 yuans even do? Just reinforcing the doors and windows wouldn't be enough. Right at that moment, a vision suddenly flashed before my eyes. West City, Xinghai Warehouse District, Unit B7. Chicken, duck, military canned food, days with salted black luncheon meat, discounted clearance. Approx. 800 boxes of shelf fish. Life, 8-10 months. I immediately perked up. I must act as quickly as possible. Better safe than sorry. I can't risk it. The next day, I took a full day of sick leave. First, I went to the bank and took out a 50,000 yuan loan. Then, I downloaded every single loan app available on my phone. I maxed out all of them. My phone vibrated non-stop as text messages of successful loan transfers poured in. I opened my mobile banking app and gathered all the money from my accounts, including the cash I had just gotten my hands on. I pulled it all together. Finally, I dialed a real estate agent's number. Hello, I'm looking for an apartment. The budget isn't high, but I have very specific requirements. Please, tell me. It must be a top-floor apartment with an attic or a terrace. The building structure must be extremely solid. Thick walls. As for neighbors, the fewer, the better. The agent was silent for a moment, then said, Sister. What a coincidence, I actually have exactly that on hand. An old residential area in the North City, 6th floor. It's the top floor and comes with a small attic. Can I see it today? Sure, let's meet at the community gate in half an hour. Half an hour later, I stood in front of a slightly dilapidated-looking community gate. It was an old-fashioned 6-story panel building, but the structure overall looked very solid. Zhao Li rode over on his electric scooter, arriving in a rush. Sister Ning, right? Let's go up and take a look. I guarantee this place meets your requirements. The apartment has been simply renovated, so it's quite clean. Zhao Li skillfully introduced the place from behind me. My gaze swept across the walls. Wall thickness, 30 centimeters. Brick concrete structure, good condition. I looked at the windows. Aluminum frames. Glass thickness, 5 millimeters. Ceiling, average. I looked at the door. Standard anti-theft door, steel plate thickness. Approx. 1.2 millimeters. Lock core, level A. I also checked out the small attic upstairs. I was very satisfied with the space. How is it, Sister Ning? The rent is cheap. Only 2,000 a month. 1 month deposit, 3 months upfront. I directly signed a 1-year contract. Early the next morning, I went straight to a building materials market in West City. I hired a few workers and began transporting materials that very day to start the reinforcement work. In the afternoon, I rushed to the supermarket. I took out my prepared list, and my eye scanned across the shelves like a scanner. Northeast rice, 10 kg pack, inventory. 30 to bags, shelf life, 12 months, branded flour. 5 kg pack, inventory. 25 bags, shelf life, 8 months. I spoke with the supermarket manager. Help me pack up everything on this list. It's a company purchase. 2 hours later, the supermarket's truck drivers began helping me transport the goods trip by trip. The first truckload was mainly rice, flour, oil, and canned food. The second truckload was water, some vegetables, and daily necessities. The third truckload was various dried goods. Wood ear mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, glass noodles, and several large bundles of compressed biscuits. After moving everything upstairs, I leaned against the door and slid down to the floor. Looking at the room full of supplies, my arms and legs were trembling from exhaustion. Just as I was resting, my phone rang. It was my mom. "Xiaoning, have you eaten yet?" Yes, I've eaten. What about you guys? The weather has been really weird lately. You have to take good care of yourselves. Mom, it seems prices are going to go up soon. You guys need to hoard more supplies quickly. On the other end of the line, Mom started nagging, telling me not to worry about nonsense. After hanging up, I could only try to persuade them indirectly, telling them to stock up more. I told them I had a premonition. Otherwise, they might have taken me to see a psychiatrist. The sound of renovation work rang out all morning, just as I was carrying boxes of canned goods inside. The door across the hall creaked open. It was Auntie Wang who lived across from me. "Xiaoning, are you doing a massive shopping haul?" My heart skipped a beat. I forced a smile. "Yes, Auntie Wang. Just stocking up on some things. That's a lot of things you're moving." Auntie Wang nodded. "I see you bought a lot of rice and flour. Can one person eat all of that?" I gave a dry explanation. "Aren't they saying prices are going to soar soon?" "Just buying more to save money." After Auntie Wang left, I went downstairs to throw away the renovation garbage. I ran into another neighbor, Mrs. Zhang. "Your renovation work is really annoying. This old building has bad soundproofing. You're disturbing my kids' afternoon nap." "I'm really sorry." "Sorry for disturbing you." Mrs. Zhang curled her lip and turned away. This Mrs. Zhang seemed like someone you shouldn't mess with. The next day, I went to a hardware market in the suburbs. I purchased several generators and solar panels. In the evening, I took my ID and cash to the nearest gas station. I filled up several jerry cans with fuel. Without stopping to rest, I went to a pharmacy to buy some common medicines. Finally, I went to the West City, to the Xinghai Warehouse District, Unit B7. It was very remote. I called and found the manager. He took me inside the warehouse. "Just these canned days and military-grade luncheon meat. I can give them to you for 2 yuan a box. I'm genuinely interested." "How much for all of it?" The uncle quoted a number. I immediately transferred the money to pay. The uncle called over to porters, and they started moving the boxes out. I stood at the warehouse entrance, looking at the continuously decreasing balance on my phone, and then at the supplies in the truck, falling into a moment of silence. By the time I reached the community gate, it was completely dark. I paid extra money to have the driver help me carry them up to my apartment. After finishing, my stomach was growling with hunger. I made a hot pot meal to reward myself. After eating, exhausted from the day's labor, I fell into a deep sleep that night. Early the next morning, before the sky was fully light, I was awakened by noise outside. I got up, walked to the window, and looked out. hitting the glass with sharp, crackling sounds. Ah. It's snowing? It's only been autumn for a little while. In those few seconds of my shock, the sky darkened rapidly. At a speed visible to the naked eye, visibility outside dropped sharply. Immediately after, I heard short bursts of car horns from downstairs. And faintly, there were screams, distorted and torn by the howling wind. What's going on? How could it snow like this on a day like today? I stared intently outside. Under the dim light of the street lamps, the wildly dancing snow mixed with white particles revealed a somewhat eerie feeling. Right at that moment, the lights in my room flickered violently a few times. And then, they went out. Almost simultaneously, the signal and internet on my phone also completely died. The world seemed to have hit the pause button. Only the howling blizzard outside filled my visual space. A layer of cold sweat instantly broke out on my palms. It's here. It's really here. A few seconds later, I took a deep breath, turned around, used my phone's flashlight, and started the generator. The room immediately lit up. During the renovation, I specifically had the master make the windows black out. I walked to the window and looked outside again. In the open space downstairs, in just over 10 minutes, the snow had already accumulated past ankle depth. I saw a few figures hugging themselves in the blizzard, shrinking their necks, and rushing towards their respective building doors. My phone has no signal. What's going on? Seriously. Voices filled with panic and disbelief echoed. Downstairs, Mrs. Zhang's shrill voice also pierced through the floorboards, faintly drifting up. Where's property management? Call property management. What do you mean you can't get through? What a trashy phone. I didn't open the window. The cold could be felt even through the glass. The temperature outside was dropping rapidly. But I had a generator and hoarded firewood. I wasn't afraid at all. Feeling a little hungry, I pan-fried a steak. I sat quietly at the dining table, eating the steak, listening to the sound of the blizzard mixing with ice shards outside. At this moment, I didn't feel much fear. Instead, I felt a strange sense of calm. In the morning, the sky was still a dull grayish white. I walked to the window, looking at the vast white dead world outside. In less than a couple of hours, the temperature outside must have already dropped to minus 60 or 70 degrees. The blizzard outside continued to rage. But the true test of human nature had probably just begun. The whole community, even the whole city, had lost power. But I lacked nothing. Warmth filled my entire room. I decided to go out and scout around. Through the crack of the door, I could feel the bone-chilling cold in the hallway. The hallway was dead silent. Only the sound of the wind howling in the stairwell. When I walked down to the 5th floor, I heard Mrs. Zhang's voice, "Mom. It's freezing. Wrap the blanket tighter." from the corner of my eye. I swept my gaze over Mrs. Zhang's tightly shut door. Information popped up. Kitchen rice stock, approx. 3 kilograms. Refrigerator, small amount of fruits and vegetables. Storage cabinet, several bags of snacks. Bedroom, wardrobe, ample warm clothing. I returned home and sat on the sofa in the living room. What these eyes gave me was not just the ability of clairvoyance, but an advantage to see the truth in a fog-like environment. In the afternoon, the blizzard seemed to have weakened a bit, but the chill grew heavier. I was reading a novel on the sofa when a faint coughing sound came from outside the door. It was Auntie Wang's voice. Auntie Wang was wrapped in thick cotton coats, leaning against her door. Mr. Chen, who lived diagonally across, opened his door. Auntie Wang, are you okay? Saying that, he handed a cup of hot water to Auntie Wang. Auntie Wang thanked him profusely and took the hot water. Auntie Wang is a good person. She had warned me before. Under these circumstances, getting sick is a huge deal. I turned and walked back inside, grabbed some medicine, and opened my door. Auntie Wang, I have some medicine here. See if it helps. Seeing the medicine in my hand, Auntie Wang looked at it like a lifesaver. Oh my. Xiao Ning. This? Thank you so much. This is truly a timely help in a crisis. Mr. Chen stood by the side, his gaze falling on the cup and medicine in my hands. There seemed to be something else in his eyes. It was no longer just pure scrutiny. Auntie Wang took the medicine. She looked at me and Mr. Chen gratefully. My old bones are really useless now. Mr. Chen was silent for a moment, then said, Can our 3 households look out for each other? No need to merge. Just share information. If anything happens, we let each other know. If someone yells, there will be backup. My heart stirred. A mutual aid group. This is indeed better than fighting alone. But I immediately thought of my apartment full of supplies. Sharing information is fine. Sharing resources? Absolutely not, I spoke in a cautious tone. Looking out for each other is fine. But some things must be said upfront. Each household is responsible for its own supplies. Unless it's a special circumstance, we do not share. That is the bottom line. Mr. Chen nodded. Agreed, it's mainly for safety and information. For example, taking turns watching the movements downstairs. Or, if anyone finds out where we can gather useful things. Auntie Wang also nodded quickly, yes, yes, yes. This is good, this is safe. With my old bones, I can't do much else. But keeping an ear out for movements is still something I can do. And so, in this freezing, dead silent hallway, the simplest mutual aid alliance was established. With just 3 simple agreements and the tacit understanding of vigilance and need in each other's eyes. Not even half a day after the mutual aid group was formed, Mrs. Zhang's voice echoed in the hallway again that afternoon. With a raised, shrill voice. Auntie Wang, Mr. Chen. It's great that you're all here. Mrs. Zhang pointed at my tightly shut door. Her place is the best prepared in our whole building. Now that it's freezing outside, she just locks her door and enjoys herself. Does she have any sense of neighborly affection left? Auntie Wang looked troubled. Mrs. Zhang continued, she hoarded so much stuff. What's wrong with sharing a bit with us? We are all neighbors. We should help each other. I think she is just selfish. Cold-blooded. Chen Gang's tone was flat. Mrs. Zhang, whether she has supplies and how much she has is her own business. She prepared in advance, which shows her foresight. You didn't prepare. That is your own business. No one owes you anything. Mrs. Zhang turned red with anger, pointing at Chen Gang. I directly opened the door and walked out, yelling at Mrs. Zhang. You still have 3 kilos of rice in your own home, vegetables in your fridge, and plenty of clothes in your wardrobe. How can you say you can't survive? Why do you insist on eyeing other people's things? Mrs. Zhang's lips trembled. You're talking nonsense. Where do I have all that? You know perfectly well yourself. If you keep throwing tantrums and making noise in the hallway, don't blame me for showing no mercy. After Mrs. Zhang slinked away in defeat, Auntie Wang breathed a sigh of relief. She said to me, Xiaoning, don't take it to heart. Hurry back inside. The 5th day of the extreme cold. The temperature outside stayed at around -70 degrees. On the streets, many people had already frozen into ice sculptures. The hallway was quieter than the previous 2 days. The entire community was disturbingly dead. This morning, Chen Gang and a few others went out to search for supplies. But the supplies they brought back were very limited. And so, the community was quiet for 2 days. But this quietness felt like the oppressive silence before a storm. It was suffocating. That afternoon, Auntie Wang knocked on my door. She looked around, lowered her voice. Xiaoning, Mrs. Zhang has been telling everyone everywhere that you hoarded a massive amount of things, hiding them in your room, refusing to share them. She even said you might have some shady connections. She looked at me with worry. I know you are not that kind of person. But some people already believe her. I clenched my fists. I said, I do have some preparations at home. But it's not as exaggerated as she says. I bought everything little by myself. Auntie Wang nodded, I know. Don't take it to heart. But you must be careful. That night, Chen Gang knocked on my door. As soon as I opened it, I looked at Chen Gang. Information instantly floated before my eyes. Chen Gang, current status, exhausted. Vigilant, carried items. Multi-tool Swiss Army knife placed at lower back, hidden intent, no malice. Planning, preparing the next supply search route. My heart skipped a beat. Hidden intent? How can I see this now? He stood in the hallway. There have been some rumors spreading recently, I said directly. I have a friend in the Meteorological Bureau. He warned me beforehand that the weather might be extremely abnormal. So, I hoarded some food myself. Chen Gang looked at me silently. I don't mean anything else. Don't worry. The extreme cold continued. Time felt like it had frozen. Every single day was cold and long. That afternoon, I was eating my meal when I suddenly felt something strange outside. I walked to the window. Outside was still a vast expanse of white, but the edges of the snow surface seemed to be melting. It seemed the temperature was rising, and at a very fast pace. While I was still stunned, a violent shaking suddenly erupted from beneath my feet. I immediately fell to the floor. The building instantly erupted in chaos. The sound of shattering glass came from downstairs. The shaking lasted for about 10 seconds. When the shaking stopped, I immediately looked outside. A flood had broken out. A flood is coming downstairs. Someone shouted in terror. The people on the first floor didn't have time to run before being submerged by the flood. Second floor residents cried and screamed as they moved their things upstairs. The hallway was a complete mess. The extreme cold hadn't passed yet, and now the flood crisis followed right after. Screams and curses filled the stairwell. Chen Gang's face was ashen, but his voice was exceptionally calm. Don't panic. Women and children, gather in the 6th floor hallway and empty rooms first. People started moving according to his orders. My apartment was on the top floor, the highest ground, so it was temporarily safe. I knew I couldn't just stand by and do nothing anymore. I immediately went out. I have a few worn-out thick cotton coats here, and some of my remaining canned food. Take them first. This little bit of stuff was insignificant. But at this moment, when those people looked at me, in their eyes, the hostility faded a bit. By evening, the hallway was packed with people. The air was suffocatingly stale. Noises of arguments and sighs mixed together. When my gaze swept over Mrs. Zhang and her son, a new piece of information popped up. Right pocket of outer coat. Copper brand chocolate remaining. 3 pieces, hidden intent. Hoarding personal supplies. I suppressed the shock in my heart and returned to the living room, pondering the evolution of my ability. Now, it could help me better distinguish the good from the bad. The streets of the entire city were left a dilapidated mess after the apocalyptic baptism. From the descent of the -70-degree extreme cold to the outbreak of the flood, only about a month had passed. The entire city was first engulfed by the cold, and then washed away until only ruins remained. A few days later, the flood waters gradually receded. I clearly knew the principle of an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Emotions of hunger and despair spread. We went out to search for supplies twice more, but it was just a drop in the bucket. I took out some of my hoarded supplies and shared a portion, just to ensure that The elderly and children in the building wouldn't starve to death. Chen Gang called a few people together and held a meeting in an empty room. For the sake of our families and children, tomorrow morning we need to go further out to find new resources. Staying here forever is just waiting for a slow death. Early the next morning, a faint mist permeated the air. The city was still in ruins. The air was filled with an indescribable smell, mixed with decay and dust. It was deadly silent. The entire city was full of unknown dangers. The four of us, each carrying a fire axe, avoided the main roads, moving carefully among the ruined buildings. Relying on my abilities' early warnings, we avoided many dangers. Reaching an abandoned mall, we split up. I stood in place, closed my eyes, and cast my perception out like a net. Then, with my intentional yet seemingly casual hints, we dragged our exhausted bodies back fully loaded. On our way back, my eye's ability issued a warning. Northern number 3 survivor base. Distance, very far. Condition, slightly better. Survival rate, below 30%. I immediately told Chen Gang. He seemed to have guessed something, but he didn't ask me how I got the information. After returning to the community, Chen Gang immediately gathered everyone else and said, "It's no longer safe here. No one can guarantee the flood won't come back. We need to relocate. There's a survivor base in the north. It's very far. Let's pack all the food we can carry and prepare to leave. We have to gamble on this. Otherwise we will eventually starve to death here. This is our final mission. Not to search for supplies, but to find a way to survive." Early the next morning, we put on our respective backpacks, forming a silent but determined team. The road ahead was long and full of dangers, but I knew I could see that hidden path to survival. The journey of migration was harder than we imagined. We avoided the main roads, traveling through the ruins and wilderness of the city. Relying on the information I scanned in advance, we successfully avoided the starving scavengers. In an abandoned tunnel, we spent a relatively safe night. Before dawn the next day, we set out again. We didn't know how long we walked. Our shoes were worn through, and our clothes were torn to shreds by thorns. Our food was running out again. Hope was like a candle in the wind, flickering on and off, until the morning of the third day, as we passed through a stretch of ruins. Chen Gang, who was walking in the front, suddenly stopped in his tracks, his body stiffening. We caught up and looked in the direction of his gaze. At the end of the horizon, there was a massive building complex, protected by high walls, watchtowers, and barbed wire. Inside the walls, there were neat houses, and even wisps of cooking smoke rising into the air. We supported each other, leaving the darkness behind us and walking towards the light.